Chris Ward, Green Pages. Okay.
Hi, my name is Chris Ward. I'm CTO of Green Pages Logix 1. I've been at Green Pages roughly 7 years and been working with VMware for the past 8 or 9 years actually. This is my 8th VMworld. I didn't quite make the 10-year alumni list, but pretty close to that. Hopefully I'll be on the 15 or 20-year list for sure. Looking forward to it. So far it's been a great conference and looking forward to learning a lot more. Sure, so I have a seat on the Partner Technical Advisory Board. I've sat on that board now for the past 4 years or so. And so I was very early on when VCOPS was first coming out. And we really adopted that pretty quickly. We saw a lot of value in it for both ourselves as well as our customers. We've actually instituted a program now whereby which we put VCOPS Foundation in as a part of every engagement that we do that surrounds vSphere, regardless of whether the customer asks for it or not. We find that it's a great value add. It only takes a couple hours worth of time in the scope, and we can go back in and educate the customer on their own environment, show them the value, and in most cases that leads to an actual licensable sale of VCOPS.
So diving down a little bit more into the VCOPS approach, what's the customer reaction been to kind of seeing that vision of what's going on in their environment that they've never been able to see before?
Sure, they definitely love seeing the data. Providing that level of visibility is something they haven't really had in the past. Most organizations, especially from Green Pages standpoint, we deal with a lot of mid-market companies where monitoring and management tools have traditionally been more of a nice to have than a have to have. So the budgeting just hasn't been there for it, or there have been other priorities that just took over, and they haven't really had that level of visibility in the environment. It's kind of like driving your car at night with no lights on, right? Once you take the blinders off, turn the lights on, and really see what's going on in the environment, makes all the difference in the world, and customers really do like that. So I think, customers are definitely asking us a lot about cloud and cloud management these days. Honestly, the conversations are having more to do with cloud versus cloud management. I think it's incumbent upon us as a partner and as a partner to not only to VMware obviously, but also to our customers to really bring up the cloud management component. When you start talking about cloud, whether it's private only or whether obviously in most cases more of a hybrid approach, it becomes instead of it being a nice to have, that management is a have to have. Once you're spreading workloads out across various infrastructures, whether they be private or public, if you don't have visibility into that and you can't really wrap your arms around it and really manage those environments, it's going to be very much uncontrolled chaos. So you've got to definitely have that conversation with the customer so they understand that they need that level of visibility and control, and there really is a lot of value to it that they may not have seen in the past. Yeah, so customers that are really interested in coming to us from an automation orchestration perspective, they tend to be a little bit more, I say, upscale, if you will, versus classic customers. They're already highly virtualized. In most cases, I see 70% or higher virtualized for most customers that are asking us for this type of solution or are starting to have these types of challenges where automation and orchestration really come into play. I'm actually co-presenting a session here at VMworld with one of my colleagues, John Dixon, around our methodology for successfully creating a service catalog. And I was honestly very surprised when VMware contacted us and said, hey, we need to schedule you for a second session because there are so many people registered for your initial one. I didn't really know that there was that much interest in service catalogs out there in the market, but that's really fulfilling to John and I, because it really shows that customers are interested in this. They see that it's a need, it's a challenge, and we can be there to help them solve it with great VMware tools.
So what would you forward?
Sure. So as far as when we're in those conversations around automation, I think that by and large, at least today, the customers are coming to us more so than us proactively having that conversation with the customers. I think or I at least want to flip that equation around for sure. But again, you've got to be pretty mature along the virtualization journey as a customer before you can really successfully have automation put in place. And I think one of the key things that I find in talking with customers who bring this to us is customers tend to want to automate everything. And our mantra really is just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And there are definitely things where you can put automation in place and there's a lot of value to have there. There are other pieces where automation may sound great, but the complexity and putting that automation in and knowing that it may be a dynamic environment that changes often, so the automation and the workflows may have to change often as well, maybe it's not such a great fit. And having the ability to educate customers on that and have that conversation is very key in getting them to understand and realize what they should be focused on and maybe what they shouldn't today.
So how future?
Sure. I think if we didn't have VMware's suite of management offerings to talk with our customers about, I can't say I wouldn't have those conversations, but they would be much more difficult. I'd be having to pull in a lot of third-party vendors and kind of cobble together my own solution. And that, while it's certainly doable, and I don't mind that from a services perspective, it's a lot of integration dollars, it's not necessarily the best value for the customers. And we're there to be a trusted advisor. We're there to help the customer make the right decisions and to save money. And having a fully integrated stack and a fully integrated solution that is very manageable and very doable today is a great story to tell.
So,
yeah, I think I have a couple of customer examples that I can speak to. One of which this session that we're giving at VMworld this year around developing service catalog. This was a pretty large financial customer. IT was going to be the initial consumer of this service catalog, so it was going to be things such as deploying a virtual machine and so forth, kind of the classic things that most of us think about. Oddly enough, it quickly turned into more of a business discussion where there were a few departments that were actually literally asking us, hey, can you create a workflow where somebody at their desk can request a stapler or a pencil or all this crazy stuff. And so we had to put the boxes up around that a little bit, but it just shows the power of what you can do. Really once you have these tools at your disposal. So it was a great story. That project took us about 6 months, and we met all of the customers' requirements from an IT perspective. And now IT is a everyday consumer of that service, and they are definitely looking to kind of explode that out into more of the business use cases that I described earlier. In another case, more on the operational front, was a customer who was having a lot of challenges with stability within their environment, and we were able to, with a combination of VCOPS along with our own managed services offering, we were able to really help that customer out quite a bit and get their environment stabilized. And in this case, the customer themselves were a SaaS provider, so obviously uptime and stability is a little bit key there for their end user customers. So it was great to have the VMware tools at our disposal to help us make them successful to their long-standing customers as well.
Great.
Sure. So with the software-defined data center, that's again a fairly new concept. I think we've been talking about it for a long time, but not necessarily in those terms of software-defined data center. So when you bring that to customers, I think it's the fear is it may become the next cloud word, the four-letter word. But if you really talk to the customers and educate them about what it really means to have a software-defined data center, the agility and the optimizations that it can provide, then it becomes a real true conversation. And again, it goes back to what Pat said this morning at the keynote, and a lot of others have been talking about it as well, is really giving IT a seat at the table of the business. And how can IT help the business go forward and bring value? I think that's a key component of this and something that should not be missed.
So,
yeah, I think over the next year, I'm very excited on a few different fronts. Firstly, and as was announced this morning by Pat, I think NSX or Nicira is certainly the darling of the show this year, it seems. I'm very excited about that. My own internal networking team, I've actually been having them do their own kind of self-study on software-defined networking in general, going out and learning as much as they can about it, because this is going to be the next big thing. As Pat said this morning, I fully agree with. Networking is the foundational component of everything, and being able to virtualize that is absolutely key. I think also on the hybrid front, the VCHS initiative, the hybrid cloud that VMware has developed, I think that's going to provide a lot of value for customers. I was very excited to hear Pat's announcement this morning around VCHS supporting things like desktop and DR as a service, so that we as partners can develop our own solutions on the VCHS platform and then offer those as somewhat white label services to our own customers. That's very powerful. I know we partner a lot with other infrastructure as a service providers to provide some of those services today, but they tend to be smaller, nichier partners, which is not a bad thing. But knowing that you have VMware backing this initiative is certainly huge. You know that's not going to fail. You know they're not going to go out of business next week. It's going to be around for the long term, and I think that brings a lot of comfort to our customers as well, and being able to tell them that the service that we're offering is backed by VMware within that cloud environment. Yes, on the business management side, that's a very interesting conversation. We're definitely looking at that quite intently, and I'm pretty excited about that for one primary purpose, and that is to help my own consulting team be able to go into a customer environment and help the customers determine what their true internal costs of IT are. A lot of the conversations we have with customers today around cloud, and specifically about moving workloads out to public cloud, is hey, it's going to be cheaper. And so I raise my hand and I say, okay, cheaper than what? And obviously their answer is, well, cheaper than running it on my internal infrastructure. So I say, okay, well, tell me how much it costs to run this virtual machine with this configuration per hour, per day, per week, per month, per year, per quarter, whatever the case may be. If you can give me that number within 5 minutes, okay, let's have a conversation. If you can't, then let's maybe back up a little bit and figure out what your own internal costs are, but so that you're actually making a real decision as far as what should go out in the public cloud, what maybe should stay private. Up until this point, it's been very much a manual process to go into customers and be able to really dig in and find that information out. So any tools that we can use from a partner perspective and a consulting level, or tools that we can provide to our end user customers to help them figure that out, it's definitely a win-win for everybody.
Very good.